After this tutorial, you will be able to just make your player walk and run just like this one with proper animations. We are starting with creating a simple world scene. Therefore, we'll take a 2D node. Here we will add a tile map layer. We add a tile set to this one, new tile set. Like this, 16 by 16 in my case. Just choose the tile size you have for your tile set. My tile set has 16 by 16. And we will add this one to make sure to click tile sets underneath here and just drag and drop your tile set here. And you can also automatically create tiles with the size you just set it up here. And as we don't set any collision for the floor tiles, we have only 4 floor tiles here, so we just can paint on the tile map like this one. If you have different types of floor tiles, you can just mark all of them. Take this shuffle mode, this square mode, and just do something similar to this one. So you just have a random created floor. The next thing is we'll just call this one world. Then we will save this one as world scene. I always prefer the first letter big. So we have this world scene, and the next scene what we need is the player scene. Therefore, we'll take a character body 2D. This character body 2D has a collision shape. It's always necessary to have a collision shape on your character body 2D. We have a sprite 2D. We have a animation player. And we also put the camera 2D here. This is because we want that the camera is always following the player. That's why we just put it on the screen, on the scene of the player. So it will always follow this one when this node is moving. This is what we'll do now. The camera will move with the player. We also have to set a collision shape. For this one, I always take a circle. And to set the size, we will put your player sprite on the sprite 2D. So in my case, I have two different, a left one and a right one, like left direction, right direction frog version for my player. For this one, we'll go to sprite 2D, animation, and say H frames as they are horizontal are 2. So we have just this one and the collision shape. I always like to just adjust it right the size of the sprite. So we already set up the tree. First thing what we'll do is the animation for the player, and for this one we'll take this animation player node. We want to have an idle animation, walk left animation, and walk right animation, and when we walk up or down it will just use one of this left or right animation. So what we're gonna do is we'll create an animation by clicking on the animation player, animation, new, and we say idle in this case. And we just click on the sprite now, as we have this one here. This animation is idle. And to add a track here, you can do it here. And choose property track, sprite. And we need the frame, for example. Then we right click here, insert key. And then we just inserted this sprite 2D. When we play this animation, it's just not moving idle animation, like just idle. We can also shorten it to like 0.2, as it doesn't matter, it will be played just once and then stop at the end. What we need is walk left, and for this one we will need 2 tracks. We need property track, sprite 2D, also frame, and we need add track, property track, and we need sprite 2D, this one, but in this case we need position. So what we're gonna do now, as this one is walk left, we have to change the frame at the beginning. We'll insert a key, click on this key and say value is 1. So we change the direction at the beginning of the animation to this one. And we also want to have 4 position keys. So 1, 2, we'll add just 1. Here it's 0, 0, this is fine. Here we will say 0 and in my case it's 4. And then we just right click, copy keys, right click, paste keys. And you will just set them here. And we also decrease the length of the animation to 0.8. So now this sprite is jumping as like this. Okay, I just did it the wrong way around. Actually, I have to set this one to -4 and this one also to -4, because right now we are just jumping to the bottom and not to the top. This one, and now it stops after one loop, and we just make it infinity by clicking here, animation looping, and now when we run to the left, the frog is jumping all the time. And that we don't have to do the whole thing again, we'll just say animation duplicate, and this one we'll call walk right. The only thing what we need to change here is the frame, and click on the frame and say value 0. So now we have a walk right animation, a walk left animation, and the idle animation. We can also add like a shadow. So for this one, we'll just add a sprite 2D, which we don't need to move anything. We'll rename it to shadow. And I just have this player shadow sprite here, and we'll just move it above our player so it will be behind. And we also move it just a bit down. Just like this. Now we want to add the movement and the use of the animations. So we add the script, we call it player.gd, and then we have this empty script, which we'll fill with function and variables. We start with adding a speed variable, this one, as an int. And we call it, for example, we make a speed of 100. You can adjust it just as you need. Then we need, actually that speed, and we need a function which is process. This process function is called every frame in your game. So when you add this one to one of your scenes which you have in your game, this will be called every frame. And here this one we'll use to just add all the functions, all the methods we just have right now. First of all, we want to get the input. We want that when the player is moving with WASD or with the arrow keys, that the player is moving. Okay, the next thing is we have to add a function which we call get input. Will always leads to void in this case, and we will also say variable input direction equals input dot get vector UI left, UI right, UI up, UI down. Okay, and now I explain you. This variable is just a variable which will store which button we just pressed. The WASD, up, down, left, right. The UI left, UI right, UI up, and UI down, you will just can see here an input map. And as default, show built-in actions, you have to toggle this one to see the default or the built-in actions, just as filter by name, UI up. And you see the up key is already added, but W not. This is what we'll do now. W save. Then we go to UI left. Add also the A key. Okay, UI right. Add the D key, UI down, and we will also add the S key. What we need to do is we need to set the velocity. The velocity is the movement of the player, and just character body 2Ds has this velocity variable, so you can just call them directly without to declare them because they are already inbuilt. Velocity equals input direction multiplied by speed. This one is just the speed, you just set it up here. The next thing is what we need is update animation. It's not necessary, it's just necessary when you have like animations, like we just added here, walk left, walk right and idle. We just need to declare now where to use them. And we just do it this way, that we say, in my case, we'll add a variable up here and we say on ready, or we just control left click, drag and drop this animation here. Oops, I take the player 2, control, drag and drop, and then you already have an onReady function, an onReady variable directly paste here. We need this variable for create this function. So as we want to make it up to the direction the player is moving, like left, right, left or right, we will create if statements. So we just check for if velocity.x is smaller than 0 or velocity.y is smaller than 0 and velocity.x is smaller than 0, smaller equals 0. Then we say animation player dot play walk left. Next, elif velocity. I'll just explain it right after when we write everything. Velocity dot x is bigger than 0, or velocity dot y is bigger than 0 and velocity dot x is bigger equals 0. Then we will say animation player dot play, enter the name of the animation, walk right, and otherwise we'll just play. I'm sure that you write it in the correct way, like I have upper letters, and you should also use it this way. What does it do? This if statement is checking if the x velocity is going to the left side, as it's smaller than 0. The velocity is smaller than 0. The y is smaller than 0. That means that it's going upwards, and the velocity x is smaller or equals 0. Then whenever we go upwards, and even the velocity in the x direction, we're just moving upwards, it will also play the walk left animation. We can do it also that we put this one here and this one here, but I just want when we walk upwards or left that we play the walk left animation, and the same we just did for the walk right animation. And when we don't move, then the velocity of the player, the movement, is 0. That means we play the idle animation. We just need to put this get input to the process that we called every frame, and we also need to update the animation also every frame, and don't forget to say move and slide here. We want to save the whole scene as player scene. We go to our world, the 2D view, and we add the player scene to the world. We'll maybe move it also a bit here. And the player, we just almost forgot, we need to set, at least in my case, I use 16 by 16 tiles. I'll set the zoom to 3. And when we did everything correctly and we start the scene now, we will say select, and we will select the world scene as a main scene. Open. Okay, and let's see. When we move with WASD, we play the animation. And we have a proper movement. And also with the arrow keys. Okay, actually here was still a little movement bug, and this we can just fix by add track, property track, sprite, position, and this one we just insert a key, set this one to 0, 0, and then we will not float in the air when an animation just stops and we just change to the idle animation. We will just jump to the floor directly. If this tutorial helps you or you have further questions, then you can just ask them in the comments. In the next episode, we will just make this frog has a gun and can shoot